Hello Year 2, welcome to another English activity. Today we're still thinking all about me, Mr. Scullion's autobiography. These two behind me here have exactly the same words. Which one do you want to read? If you picked one of these up, it was lying on the table in the classroom or at home, and you picked it up, which one would you be more likely to look at? Which one do you think, oh yeah, that looks interesting? Do you think this one? Or do you think this one? Why? For me, I much prefer to read this side because of how it's set out. This is one big section of writing that makes me think, no thank you, I don't want to read that. That doesn't look very interesting. It looks rather boring. This one over here, it's got the writing in chunks, in different sections. And I think, oh yeah, that looks a little bit more manageable. I'd like to read this one a bit more. It's got some subheadings, so I can see clearly what this part is about and clearly what this part is about as well. It's also got pictures, which definitely make me interested. Now, in one of the activities earlier this week, I asked, why do you think there is a flag there? And lots of you very correctly said, that is a Welsh flag and Mr. Scullion is from Wales. It doesn't actually say Wales anywhere in here. It does say Cardiff, which is the capital city of Wales. So I've included my country's flag. When you write yours next week, you could include your country's flag. This here is actually a picture of the farmhouse where I used to live. So that is where I used to live. And this picture down here is not a picture of me, but I did have to wear this gi for judo. So those pictures also help make it look a little bit more interesting. And the pictures about home and family are next to the section about home and family, and the picture about hobbies and interests is next to the section about hobbies and interests. So number 2 is much easier to read than number 1. It looks more interesting and it's broken down into those lovely sections. That's what we're going to do today. Here are some things that make this one better than the number 1 choice on there. So we've got our nice big heading, and we've used headings and subheadings a lot this year, so by now everybody is an expert. And then we've got this part, the introduction. It tells us a little bit about the rest of the writing. Now in mine, it tells you when I was born and where I was born, who was in my family, so my sister, my mum and my dad, and what my mum and dad did for jobs. And that was just the start. Wasn't a lot of detail there, but it gave you an overall picture. And then more detail came later on. We've got the subheading, home and family, and then some related information. More on that in a minute. Then another subheading, hobbies and interests, and related information, and then those pictures. I thought it would be interesting for anybody reading to include a funny story, because that does make writing a little bit more interesting. We're concentrating today on subheadings and related information. Now, when we say related information, we mean information about the same thing. So this section, the subheading is home and family, and all of the information is about home and family. When I was young, we moved house a lot because of my mum's job. We're moving house, it's all about the home. My favourite house was an old farmhouse that was built 300 years ago. That's still about the home. I lived with my mum, my dad and my sister. Family. We also had a lovely dog called Heinz. Family. We lived far away from the rest of the family, so we didn't see them very often. Family. My dad's family lived in Scotland, and I only met them once or twice. All of this is about home and family. It's a bit like when you go to the supermarket. If you're walking around Chandarana and you're thinking, I need a tin of beans. You don't go to the freezer section. You don't go to the shampoo section. You know, if you want a tin of beans, there will be a section with all of the tins. It's the same sort of thing. Like, oh, right, I need some new pencils. Well, if you need new pencils and you walk into the supermarket, you don't go over to the pots and pans section looking for pencils, and you don't go over to the vegetables section looking for pencils either. You go to the stationery section, where all of the books and pencils and rulers and pens and crayons and related things are. And it's just like that in our non-fiction writing. It would be really confusing if I bounced all over the place, talking about my family, and then judo, and then swimming, and then a funny story, and then family, and then some swimming stuff, and then all jumbled up. It would be really, really confusing. So just like a supermarket, we organise our writing, and it makes it easier for anybody who's reading it. So this section is all about home and family, and this section is all about hobbies and interests. When I was 4 or 5, I wanted a pet rhinoceros. I'm interested in that, something that I liked. I asked for one for Christmas, but I didn't get one. Now, true story, I did get a toy rhinoceros for Christmas, just not a real one. I did lots of swimming when I was at school and raced in swimming competitions. That's hobbies, something that I did outside of school. When I was a bit older, I started judo. I loved reading books and I stayed up late reading quietly. Also true, and this is something that I was interested in. If I heard someone coming up the stairs, I turned off the light and pretended to be asleep, but I didn't get into trouble. Now that is still about the same thing. That's still about reading. So that's why I've included that part, because I was talking about reading and it went straight on to the fact that I used to stay up too late reading my book. I had a light that came over my bed that I could quickly reach up and switch off. But my mum and dad definitely knew that I was still awake. Grown-ups always know. Right, all grouped into one section of hobbies and interests. Today, your job is to take some extra sentences that I've put on your class dojo about my autobiography that weren't in the text you've already seen. So here's an example. Heinz was a black Labrador and she often slept in my room at night. That's the first one. You might not be able to see it on here, but that's okay. Heinz was a black Labrador and she often slept in my room at night. Your job is to decide, would you put that with home and family, or would you put that with hobbies and interests? I'm not going to show you now, because I'm sure you can have a go at this yourself. Number 2, tricky one, number 2. I liked inventing different games to play with my sister. I was in charge because I was older. I mean, playing games might be hobbies and interests, but with my sister I was in charge because I was older. Talks a bit about family. You decide. Write this sentence on that piece of paper, either in home and family or hobbies and interests. Which section does it go in best? Number 3, my mum's family didn't live as far away, but we still only saw them at Christmas. Is that about hobbies and interests or home and family? You can write it in the correct section on your sorting diagram. Now that you've got the hang of it a bit, I think you should have a go yourself. Later on, I'll show a short video on Class Dojo about where each of these things should go, but I think you should have a go first. I do want to remind people, when you're sending me your home learning, I absolutely love it when people do their personal best. I'm seeing a few people just rushing their learning to get it done and finished. If you practice rushing something, you'll get good at rushing. If you practice doing your best, you'll always do your best. And that's what I want to see. There's a couple of people I've spoken to. Today is your chance to show your absolute best. Make sure everything you do, you are proud of. Because we're proud of you. Okay, have a go yourselves. Send me a photo of your finished sorting diagram with these 2 sections with the subheading home and family and hobbies and interests. And start thinking about what you would write about yourself in these 2 sections. Because that's what we'll be doing next week. Bye.